Hello, welcome to WSPA Plus. This is also 7 News, your local election headquarters, where we are having conversations with the candidates. We are talking to each of the candidates, or at least have offered the opportunity for each of the candidates to come and join us here on WSPA Plus and to have the opportunity to answer questions. And we are asking the same questions to all of the candidates. And joining me today is Ric Stephens. Ric Stephens is one of the candidates for the office. First of all, Ric, thank you for being here today.
Oh, it's great being here. Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you here. First things first, give us a little idea of your biography, the speed version, if it were.
Oh, yeah. It'll have to be the speed version. Well, I started out here in Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office in 1996. Stayed there to 2002. Went overseas into Europe, where I was working with the State Department, and I was basically fighting organized crime, corruption, and drugs in some of the developing countries. And I stayed there for almost 10 years. And the State Department asked me to disconnect and go into one of the largest corporations over there to actually clean it, because they know that Providence would soon be a country, so it was important that it would be able to stand on its own tax foundation. So I went into that organization for 2 years to clean it. It was extremely rough, but we really did a good job. I had a group of guys with me who were accountants, things like that. And then I come back to Spartanburg and ended up going into the Secret Service Task Force in Columbia, where I stayed until 2015. At which time I retired from law enforcement and I come home to Spartanburg. Spartanburg's where I was raised. I went to Burns High School. And then I, started working in the industrial environment here in Spartanburg. I ended up going to one of the places that makes parts for BMW. I was a lab technician. And I did that for almost 10 years, and I think at that time I really got my biggest education in regard to what people here in Spartanburg County go through. Every day I was on the road battling the traffic, trying to get to work on time, punching the time clock, dealing with the daily issues, your child's being bullied at school, I hope nobody breaks in my house, all the issues that people here deal with that a lot of times law enforcement hear them talking, but don't really hear them talking. So that was, that 10-year period was a real education to me. So, and then I retired from that, and I was pretty well done. But we had a tragedy in our family where my sister's son, who had graduated from Woodruff, was the victim of a violent crime here in Spartanburg County. He was a good child, had started college. He was sort of the diamond of our family. And that brought me into this race, because I started really opening my eyes to all the victims we have here in Spartanburg County. And it's important for people to know you do not have to be a drug dealer or a drug user to be a victim of crime in Spartanburg County. You can just be in the wrong place at the wrong time, as my nephew was. So that's what brought me into this, and I want to try to do the best I can to make a difference. I'm definitely not in this for the money. I actually took a pay drop to come in this, and I definitely don't need the t-shirt in my closet. But I'm in it for the right reason, and that's the people here and their children.
We're very, very sorry about your family's loss, and we also want to move on by asking you, what do you believe qualifies you for this position?
Well, when you start looking at the problems we have, what are we facing? Well, there's several issues we have here in Spartanburg County, but a lot of the issues all stem off the same problem. And one of the big problems here is the drugs. Spartanburg County has been identified as the 20th most dangerous county in the United States to live in, the 20th. But when you start looking at that more close, you see our meth houses where these people are cooking meth in these neighborhoods. If you put a dot at your house and put a circle around it with about a 20-mile radius, I guarantee you there's somebody within that radius cooking meth. And the people who take meth are the people who's breaking into the cars, breaking into the houses, going to the ATM and robbing people when they go up there late at night to get money out. These are people that are generating these crimes. Then when you look at the fentanyl, we've had 193 young people die in Spartanburg County from fentanyl. 193. And most of these were teenagers. But when you look at even closer, we have had 0 arrests. Not one drug dealer has been arrested for selling these children this fentanyl. Not one. For me, that's unacceptable. I was in Woodruff last weekend where a lot of the parents got together whose children had died from fentanyl. And I'm going to tell you, it was the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my life, to see the awesome amount of pain coming out of these parents. And not just the pain of them losing their children, but the fact that there's been no arrest made for the dealer, and they know this man is out there selling more fentanyl. So with that in mind, I'm making a long answer to a short question, but when I was in Europe, this is what I'd done. I fought organized crime and drugs on an extremely large scale, and I was very successful in what I'd done. That's what I'm going to do here if elected. You're going to see immediate results as I start rolling these cars and I start hitting these drug dealers, these fentanyl dealers, these meth houses. You're going to see an immediate response. And I think that is going to fix a lot of things in regard to the minor crimes we're having, the break-ins, et cetera, for people trying to raise money for drugs.
What do you know about the current sheriff's office situation, and what changes would you like to make?
Well, when I retired, or not retired, but when I left the sheriff's department here in Spartanburg in 2002, I loved it. I'm going to be honest with you, I absolutely loved it. But I moved on to bigger things. And I never went back. Not that I didn't want to visit people, it's just I was occupied with different things. So when I did come back to the United States and did come back to Spartanburg, I never went back up. Actually, the other day I went to get printed for this thing I'm going through. It was required to get printed, and that was the first time I've been back in there since I left in 2002. But that being said, the deputies in Spartanburg County, they're doing a good job. And you have to understand, they're 40 people down. So that puts a tremendous load on them to get out here and make these calls and go on these calls and things like that. And when you're operating understaffed like that, the last thing you need is somebody at the sheriff's department in a managerial position that creates more stress. And I think that's what they've been living under, a lot of stress internally. And a lot of people left the sheriff's department because they did not see that as a career. That's what we want to change. They have enough stress. We want them to come to work in a good, productive environment, and we want them to look at that job as a career job. And the only way you're going to look at it as a career job is the playing field has to be level. The playing field has to be fair. That means no family members, no friends, anything like that put in managerial positions or promotion positions over people who's done what they should have done to earn it. Them are small things. Another issue is we need to get their pay up. If you go to the sheriff's department and you're hired as a deputy, one, and then you have a wife and 2 children, you're almost living in poverty. So a lot of times that's why you see these deputies out here directing traffic in front of the schools, doing all these extra duties. That's extra. They're trying to make extra money. They really shouldn't have to do that. If they do a 40-hour week, that's stressful enough. They should have 2 days off to rest with their family and not be out here trying to make money to make it. So what I've done, my degree's in forensic accounting. So I look at things very carefully, very close. So I started looking at the actual budget they had last year, and I see a lot of fat on the budget. And I think the first thing I would do to help them is start cutting that fat and reallocating those proceeds back to their pay so we can go ahead and get an immediate raise for them. And the second thing to help them is we need to fill those 40 slots as fast as possible. That'll help them and the people in Spartanburg County. Because if you're down 40 people, that means those officers, when they're out there on patrol, they're going from call to call to call. And they're backed up. They're backed up. So we don't want that. We want them, when they go to a call, for it to last as long as it takes to solve the problem.
Interim Sheriff Stephens has dropped Operation Rolling Thunder. Do you agree or disagree with that decision?
Well, yeah, I saw where he dropped that. I had spoke at a gathering a couple of days prior to him doing that, and I stood up and I spoke against Operation Rolling Thunder. And I was surprised. I had a really good backdraw of that where a lot of people agreed. I'm not against Operation Rolling Thunder, but I think that when you weigh the operation itself for the good and the bad, it brought more bad than it brought good. Yes, I know in 2002, 2003, we confiscated a lot of money, but you need to really look at that. Number one, all that money didn't go to the county. It was divided up into all the people that were involved in it. But also, when you start going out there and you start stopping cars in an operation like that, you know, they were seizing money even if they didn't find any guns and they didn't find any drugs. They still seized money. And I don't think that was correct. I know in 2002, they did 144 car searches. And out of that, they seized $960,000. But the interesting thing, when you start looking at the judicial document where they were sued, there were cars stopped that didn't have any drugs and they didn't have any weapons, but they still seized the money. I don't understand how they could have done that. Also, I don't understand the fact that when you do an operation and you start stopping cars, you should have documented every single car stop. That wasn't done either. So all the information I've looked at is based on information that they generated during the operation. So there's a lot of holes there, a lot of stuff that wasn't documented and generated. So there you go. They got sued. But I think we should have took that manpower, instead of putting them out there on 85 stopping cars, that manpower can go out here in the county, because there's plenty of meth houses that they can go out there and search. Meth houses have cash. Meth houses have weapons. They have everything you're going to find out there on 85. That's what we need to generate our energy to. Now, don't get me wrong. If we get a call from Georgia and they say you have an 18-wheeler coming through Spartanburg County and it's carrying weapons and drugs, no problem. I'll take the probable cause they provide. I'll go to a judge. I'll get the warrant, and we'll be waiting on him. But to go out there for 2 weeks and just stop cars and stop cars and stop cars, I think that energy can be better used, and we will still get the same result on seizure, and we will not inconvenience our citizens of Spartanburg County.
All right, Ric Stephens is our guest. We will have more with him in just a moment. Back with Ric Stephens, candidate for Spartanburg County Sheriff. The sheriff is, of course, one of the most powerful positions in the county. There have been numerous examples across the state of South Carolina about abuses of power. What would you say to the residents of Spartanburg County about how you would treat this responsibility and not abuse that power?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that whoever who gets this needs to be very transparent to the public. But I also think that everyone who gets this needs to be a constitutional sheriff. And I'm definitely running as a constitutional sheriff. in doing that, I intend to use the press as much as they'll let me behind the camera. I want the people of Spartanburg County to know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. And we can also do that by making a lot of different community groups where people are actually involved in the sheriff's department. And but what you need to understand is this: you need a constitutional sheriff, and you need somebody who's going to stand up for you as a citizen of Spartanburg County, because a lot of things can come here and overshadow your rights, and the only person who's going to be there to protect you as a citizen is the sheriff. When you have outside agencies who come into Spartanburg County and want to go to a house and search it, well, that search warrant needs to be examined by the sheriff's department to make sure the rights of our citizens is not being violated. If they're going to seize something, we need to look at that. Everything needs to be looked at, because the number one most important person here in Spartanburg County is the citizen. So we're going to be transparent. I'm going to have a command staff, and I expect to put the people on that command staff of different ethnic people here in Spartanburg County, because I want input from everybody. I want everybody's input in making decisions.
You touched on this a little bit earlier, but wanted to ask you, what kind of relationship do you have, if any, with current Spartanburg County Sheriff's deputies and those who would serve under you? What would be your message to them?
Well, my message to them is this: I know what you've been living in. Since I've been on the campaign trail, I've heard what's going on, and I can imagine what you've been through. But I'll say this: better days coming. You're going to have the opportunity to do your job, and you're going to have the opportunity to know exactly where you stand on being promoted and the other opportunities at the Sheriff's Department. I have made a chart that I'm going to implement if I'm promoted to sheriff or elected to sheriff. I'm going to make a chart, and this chart is going to show your way to promotion. And the way I want to do it is, you will get points for how long you've been in a certain department. You will get points based on your evaluation, and you can get points for continuing education, which could be certifications or college. But I'm going to make it to where when you get ready to go for promotion, you're going to know exactly where you stand. But what you won't have to worry about is all the hard work you put into that job, and then somebody that's kin to somebody or friends with somebody gets put into that position. That's the first seed of failure for any corporation. And what I do guarantee you is all promotions will be monitored by me. And I will make sure that there's no good old boy system anymore in the Sheriff's Department.
How would you describe your relationship with members of Spartanburg County Council?
Well, I've been in front of council when I decided to run for sheriff. I went in front of council and I announced what I was going to do. And I go to the council meetings to monitor what they're doing, to get a feel of how they're running things and how they make their decisions. And I know you've seen where the council dropped the pay on the sheriff, more than half. And I didn't really understand that. I wouldn't have done it that way. I think what I'd have done, I'd have looked at what's the next lowest paid man at the Sheriff's Department, and I'd have went to that pay and added $1. So now you've dropped his pay and gave him a report card, but he's still the highest paid man there by $1. But it is what it is. I'm not going into this for the money, I assure you. But I also know everyone who gets this job will go back in front of council in about 8 months, and it'll be sort of like a report card, if you will. And he needs to bring change to this county. This county is screaming for change. So I guess we're going to see if he does. And if he does, then he may bring the pay back up. But for me, and I'm going to say this now, for me, I don't want county council bringing my pay up until the pay of those deputies are up. So that's going to be my thing, and I'm not worried about a report card with county council because I know my report card is going to be good because I've done this before and I know exactly what I'm doing. So there's no doubt in my mind in 8 months when they review me, they're going to know a lot of changes have happened and it's all going to be for the best.
You do have a website I do want to mention. Can you let everybody know the address for them to get more information and what's there?
Yes, you're welcome to go to my website. It's RICSTEPHENS Sheriff 2025 at gmail.com. And it's got a lot of information about me. It's got pictures of things I've done. And also you can ask questions. I'll be glad to answer anything you want to ask me, no problem.
Very good. And we have just a couple more questions with our remaining time. And again, this is something that you have alluded to a little bit. What do you know about the Sheriff's Department budget and how that aligns with the needs of that department?
Well, the budget's running about $38 million. Is what I was looking at. And a large majority of that is for the pay of the officers. They're pushing about right at 400 people at the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office. That's not counting the detention center. So when you start breaking that budget down, you start looking at logistics and operational things. But I think from looking at it, there is fat that we can cut, and we can reallocate that directly to the officers' pay. And I think that's an important thing to do. And I also think, and I've met all the other candidates, and I want to say now, they're great men, good Christian men, and that's the first foundation of anybody that wants to run for this. But I think that in dealing with a budget like that, you really need to have a little background in finance, procurement, as much as you can about things like that. And as I said, my degree's in forensic accounting. I got my bachelor's at the University of New York, and I got my advanced forensic degree at Post University in Cincinnati. And so I'm used to looking at that and making sure, things are right. But, and, once we get settled down and we get everything cut and reallocated, then it may be a time when I have to go to county council and talk to them about further revenue to support the deputies. But here's the thing about Spartanburg County that's really great. With industrialization in Spartanburg County, what it is now and where we're going with it, there's a large revenue base here, and it's getting better and better and better. And this is great for our children because the more revenue that comes into Spartanburg County, the more revenue and opportunities that will be given to our children who are in junior high, high school, and college. And but what comes with that are some challenges. Now, as I told you, Spartanburg County has been ranked 20th in the most violent counties in the United States. Well, in 5 years, you're going to multiply that by probably 3. If we don't get a hold on this now, this job is extremely important. We need to get a hold on this now because with industrialization will come more people, and with more people will come more challenges. And I just want to say that in looking at these candidates, listen to what they're saying. Take a little bit extra time and look at their website. Go to some of these places where they're speaking. I know this month we're going to speak probably about 4 or 5 times as a group. Come, listen to what they're saying, and make your decision based on as much information as you can get.
Ric Stephens, candidate for Spartanburg County Sheriff, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And of course, we thank you for joining us on your 7 News, your local election headquarters here on WSPA Plus.